People are like, well, why'd you do that many drugs, man? And I'm like, because it felt great.
In September 2025, Charlie Sheen published a memoir called The Book of Sheen. It debuted on the New York Times bestseller list. The following day, Netflix released a documentary called AKA Charlie Sheen. Together, they represent something that does not happen very often in the entertainment industry. A man in his 60s attempting to narrate his own life before the tabloids get the final word on it. He is 60 years old. He has been sober for 8 years. His HIV viral load has been undetectable for years due to antiretroviral medication. He has 5 children. He has been married 3 times and divorced 3 times. He has earned, by various estimates, somewhere between $150 and $200 million across his career. His net worth today is estimated at somewhere between $10 and $11 million. The gap between what he earned and what remains is one of the most dramatic documented examples of financial destruction in Hollywood history. It was produced by child support and spousal support payments exceeding $110,000 per month across multiple simultaneous obligations. It was produced by approximately $10 million paid to blackmailers to keep his HIV diagnosis private between 2011 and 2015. It was produced by a cocaine habit that cost him, at his most active, an estimated $50,000 a week. It was produced by 3 divorces, each of which generated its own legal machinery, its own court costs, its own settlements. And it was produced by a breakdown so comprehensive and so public that it became a cultural event. A man who had been the highest paid actor on American television standing on a roof, waving a machete, telling interviewers that he was on a drug called Charlie Sheen. He turned 60 in September 2025. He is sober. He is alive. He is writing books. And the tragedy of his life is not simply what he lost, but how close every version of the story came to not having a 60-year-old chapter at all. The boy from Malibu, Carlos Erwin Estevez, was born on September 3, 1965 in New York City, the 3rd child of Ramon Estevez, known professionally as Martin Sheen, and Janet Templeton. His siblings were Emilio, Ramon Jr., and Renee, all of whom entered the entertainment industry in various forms. The family moved to Malibu, California, when Charlie was still a small child, following Martin's Broadway career into the Hollywood orbit, and he grew up in the specific environment that produces either the most grounded people imaginable or the least, surrounded by fame, adjacent to access, in a neighborhood where the abnormal was the baseline. He made his screen debut at 9 years old in his father's 1974 television film, The Execution of Private Slovic, an uncredited extra in his father's production. He was in the Philippines in 1977, present on the set of Apocalypse Now, when Martin Sheen suffered a near-fatal heart attack in a rice paddy during filming. He was 11 years old, watching his father be carried away from a movie set. That is the kind of experience that lodges somewhere specific in a child's development and does not leave on request. At Santa Monica High School, he played alongside Rob Lowe and Sean Penn and Robert Downey Jr. in the specific social universe that a certain kind of California high school produces. Talented, connected, drawn to performance, and surrounded by more access to more destructive things than any teenager should have. He was a star pitcher on the baseball team, good enough that a professional career seemed genuinely possible. He was also, by his later admission, already using drugs in high school. He was expelled a few weeks before graduation, falling short of his diploma for a combination of poor grades and poor attendance that the administration had apparently tolerated as long as it could. He focused on acting instead. In 1984, he appeared in Red Dawn. In 1986, he had a small role in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the rebellious teenager in the police station, the cameo that Oliver Stone saw, the cameo that led directly to the role that made him famous. Platoon and the career that should have been enough. Oliver Stone cast him in Platoon in 1986. Charlie Sheen was 21 years old. The film won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. It is one of the most critically respected war films ever made. His performance as Private Chris Taylor, the young soldier through Bani, whose eyes the moral horror of Vietnam was filtered, was serious, controlled, and unshowy in the way that genuinely good acting tends to be. He was not the flashiest thing in that film. He was the anchor. The following year, he appeared in Wall Street alongside his father Martin, in a piece of casting that Oliver Stone arranged specifically to create an on-screen father-son dynamic between the two Sheens. He played Bud Fox, the ambitious young stockbroker who gets drawn into Gordon Gekko's orbit and eventually turns against him. The film gave him Michael Douglas as a scene partner, which is an education in how to stay present opposite someone who operates at maximum level. He held his own. In 1987, at 22 years old, He had starred in the Best Picture winner and one of the defining financial films of the decade. He was being spoken about as one of the most promising actors of his generation. The trajectory was clear. It led toward the kind of sustained, serious career that his father had built. Not the biggest box office draws, but the most consistently respected work, decade after decade. It did not go that way. The drugs were already part of the story by 1986. He has been candid in retrospect. The cocaine, the alcohol, the prostitutes, the specific ecosystem of excess that Hollywood generates around young men with money and no framework for what to do with it. In 1990, he accidentally shot his then-fiancée Kelly Preston in the arm. She said the gun discharged accidentally while he was getting dressed. She called off the engagement and married John Travolta the following year. In 1994, he was called as a witness in the Heidi Fleiss case, the Hollywood Madam prosecution, and the specific nature of his involvement was not ambiguous. In 1996, he married Donna Peel. The marriage lasted 1 year. He had a daughter named Cassandra with Paula Profit in 1985, before the fame had fully arrived. Cassandra grew up as his eldest child, watching from the outside as her father's life constructed and then dismantled itself. She is, by Sheen's own account in the 2025 memoir, the child who took his various breakdowns hardest and who reassured him most consistently that she believed he could get better. 2.5 Men and the Machine Spin City gave him his first major television vehicle in the late 1990s, and he won a Golden Globe for it. When he joined 2.5 Men in 2003 as Charlie Harper, a hedonistic, alcohol-soaked, commitment-phobic jingle writer living in a Malibu beach house, the character was not a significant stretch. The show became the most watched comedy on American television. He became the highest-paid actor on American television, earning approximately $1,800,000 per episode by the time the relationship ended. His total earnings from 2.5 Men exceeded $100 million. He married Denise Richards in 2002. They had 2 daughters, Sam and Lola. He filed for divorce in 2005. She filed for divorce in 2006 after claiming domestic violence in court documents he denied. The divorce generated years of legal proceedings, custody disputes, and the specific acrimony that is produced when 2 people with young children and real grievances against each other have the resources to sustain a legal battle indefinitely. He married Brooke Mueller in 2008. They had twin boys, Bob and Max. Mueller had her own documented substance abuse issues, and their relationship became a recurring tabloid story. Hospitalization, allegations, intervention, counter-allegation. They divorced in 2011. Combined child and spousal support payments across his various obligations reached $110,000 per month or more at their peak, a number that requires consistent income at a level that most people never approach and that a man without a regular paycheck cannot sustain indefinitely. He was generating that income from 2.5 Men. He was also, by his own later admission, spending approximately $50,000 per week on cocaine. The 2 figures running simultaneously, the income from the most successful comedy on television and the expenditure of a drug habit at industrial scale, were not sustainable even at his earnings level. Something was going to give. I had tiger blood. In January 2011, he was hospitalized after severe abdominal pain. He entered rehab for the 3rd time in a year. Production of 2.5 Men was suspended. CBS and Warner Brothers had tolerated the cycle of hospitalization and return for years because the show was too profitable to cancel and Sheen was too central to recast. By late February, however, something had shifted in the chemistry of his public behavior. Not just the drugs, but the testosterone cream he was using, which he later identified on the Dr. Oz show as the specific accelerant behind what followed. He called Chuck Lorre, the show's creator, a turd. He used an anti-Semitic term in reference to Lorre's name in a radio interview. He created a Twitter account and within 48 hours had amassed over 1 million followers watching him post things in real time. He launched a live streaming show from his home called Sheen's Corner. He gave television interviews in which he told the hosts, "I am on a drug. It's called Charlie Sheen. It is not available because if you try it once, you will die. Your face will melt off and your children will weep over your exploded body." He told ABC's Andrea Canning he was not bipolar. He was bi-winning. He won here, he won there. He said he had tiger blood in his veins and Adonis DNA. He was seen on the roof of a building pounding a bottle of tiger blood, a drink he had branded, and waving a machete. CBS and Warner Brothers fired him on March 7, 2011. He sued them for $50 million. He settled out of court for an undisclosed amount widely reported to be in the $25 million range, substantially less than his claimed damages. He launched a nationwide tour called the Torpedo of Truth. The first show in Detroit was supposed to be 90 minutes. It lasted approximately 45 minutes before the audience, having paid to see something coherent, began booing. The subsequent shows were better organized largely because comedian Russell Peters stepped in to help impose structure on what had become chaos. The tour made money. It was not the statement he intended. 10 years later, he called it a juvenile meltdown. He said there were 55 different ways to handle that situation, and he chose number 56. He said, "I'm so glad that I traded early retirement for a hashtag." The secret, he paid $10 million to keep around 2011. After a period of severe headaches and night sweats, Charlie Sheen was diagnosed as HIV positive. He has said in the 2025 memoir and in the 2015 Today Show interview that the period between his diagnosis and his public disclosure was the most isolating of his life. He told people privately because the medical reality required disclosure to partners. And then they extorted him with the information. He told Matt Lauer in November 2015, "I had to tell people in private. Then they would extort me with that information." He confirmed he had paid approximately $10 million to blackmailers over 4 years to prevent the diagnosis from becoming public. $10 million in blackmail payments, on top of the child support, on top of the cocaine, on top of the divorces and the legal battles and the settlement with Warner Brothers. His 2016 court filings reported $12 million in debts, a monthly income that had dropped from $600,000 to $167,000, monthly medical expenses of $25,000, and the $10 million already spent on extortion settlements. The diagnosis itself, as he has consistently emphasized, is not a death sentence in the modern medical context. His viral load has been undetectable for years on antiretroviral medication. His physician confirmed this in the 2015 Today Show segment. He is not sick in the way that HIV meant sick in an earlier era of the disease. What the diagnosis cost him was not his health, but a decade of secrecy, and the secrecy cost him $10 million in an isolation that he has described as a prison. "I released myself from this prison today," he said on the Today Show in 2015, and then, a decade later, in the memoir, he released himself from another one, disclosing that he had had sexual encounters with men, a disclosure that he said carries in 2025 the same weight that the HIV disclosure carried in 2015. "Protecting secrets cost me more than living honestly ever would." Where he stands at 60, he is 8 years sober. He has said the moment that turned him was not the HIV diagnosis or the firing or the financial catastrophe, but a morning when he was too drunk to drive his daughter to an appointment. He did not drink and drive. He had never had a DUI. He was simply not functional enough to be available. The next morning, he said, he understood that today was the day. He has not had a drink since. His net worth sits at approximately $10 to $11 million, a number that represents what remained after $150 million passed through his hands and through the machinery of his own destruction. The child support obligations have reduced as his children have grown. The HIV treatment costs approximately $25,000 a month, a number that is itself a reminder of the structural cruelty of American healthcare, and one that his reduced income makes considerably more difficult to absorb than it was during the 2.5 Men years. He has 5 children, Cassandra, 39, from his teenage relationship with Paula Prophet, Sam and Lola, his daughters with Denise Richards, now adults, Bob and Max, his twin sons with Brooke Muller, who spent a significant portion of their childhoods in custody disputes between parents with documented substance abuse histories on both sides. He has said in the memoir and the documentary that rebuilding those relationships, particularly with the twins who lived for years with Muller's family and away from him during the worst years, is the ongoing work of his 60s. Denise Richards has been guardedly positive in interviews since the documentary's release, acknowledging that time and sobriety have produced a version of her former husband who is genuinely trying to do differently. His daughter Cassandra, who has said publicly that she nearly lost him multiple times, appeared in the Netflix documentary describing a father she loves and has not always been able to reach. He said in the Book of Sheen, "Everyone thought they knew me. The cocaine, the tiger blood, the machete on the roof, the Today Show. They added up to a story the world wrote about him that he inhabited without quite being able to correct in real time. What the memoir and the documentary attempt, with varying success, is the correction. A 60-year-old man saying, 'This is what actually happened, and this is what I understand about it now.' The tragedy of Charlie Sheen is not one thing. It is the talent that Platoon revealed and that the subsequent decades failed to develop into what it promised. It is the $150 million that the system gave him and that he and the system together dismantled. It is the $10 million paid to blackmailers to keep a medical diagnosis private when disclosure would have saved both the money and the isolation. It is the twin boys growing up in the wreckage of a custody battle between two parents who both needed help that neither could reliably provide. And it is also, at 60, The Sobriety, the best-selling memoir, the Netflix documentary, the undetectable viral load, the rebuilt relationship with Cassandra, who did not write him off, the moment he was too drunk to drive his daughter to an appointment and understood that today was the day. He is 60 years old. He is still here. That is, given everything, its own kind of remarkable.